also known as the Origin. The derelict on LV-426 is inarguably one of the most historic ships in the alien universe. While it was essentially the wreck of an Engineer Juggernaut spacecraft, many different organizations embarked on expeditions to investigate it after it was discovered on LV-426, while the ship was damaged during the detonation of an atmosphere processing plant in Hadley's Hope. The derelict continued to be a subject of great interest, and today we will explore it in detail and tell you all about it. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What is the derelict ship and who built it? Like other engineered spacecraft, the derelict was a giant, asymmetrical craft in the shape of a wishbone, with a thick central section separating the two prong-shaped structures on either side. The port and starboard prong were about 161.6 meters and 174.3 meters tall, respectively, while the entire ship stood at about 116.6 meters in width. According to official historical records, the starboard and port prongs were 61 meters away from each other, and the ship had 3 openings at ground level. All of these openings were situated on one side of the craft and were essentially an entry point for Nostromo crew members, such as Arthur Dallas, Joan Lambert, and Thomas Kane. As they investigated the abandoned craft, Kane suggested that these openings were airlocks and that they might have been open after the crew had initiated some form of an emergency evacuation. The interior of the ship bore a striking resemblance to a living being as opposed to a spacecraft, as the walls and ceilings were lined with bones and many other organic structures. The vaulted ceilings and passages were also home to such design choices, and Kane theorized that the ship might just be a biological construct that grew over time instead of being a mechanical craft. As they ventured deeper within the derelict, they also came across a huge cargo under the cockpit before stumbling upon a number of cargo bays and internal compartments as well.
I found it.
How was the derelict first discovered by the Nostromo crew? Over time, it was deduced that the derelict was first found on LV-1201, a planet where engineers bred xenomorphs in vast numbers. While the vessel was functioning at this point, it had fossiled to a point where even the pilot's corpse was a fossil. When it was eventually discovered on LV-426, about millions of years down the line, before most of the crew was killed off, they had set up a warning beacon to warn others from approaching the vessel, to ensure they did not accidentally discover the xenomorphs stored in its cargo. Eventually, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation decoded this warning as a distress call and sent the USCSS Nostromo's crew to investigate the derelict. As the crew members made their way into the vessel, Kane was unfortunately attacked by a facehugger, who even impregnated him, while the Nostromo was ordered to leave LV-426 as soon as possible. As the vessel made its way out, Warrant Officer Ellen Ripley was given no choice but to initiate the self-destruct procedure on the ship after they realized that a xenomorph was on board. What did the crew find inside the derelict? Before the Nostromo left LV-426, Nostromo's crew investigated the derelict to find the fossilized corpse of the pilot, which had been rotting for so long that it had fused with the command chair. Some wounds on the corpse indicated that a chestburster had claimed the pilot's life, but they did not gather a lot of information. Years later, colonists named Russ and Ann Jordan embarked on a journey from Hadley's Hope in 2179 to explore the vessel in detail. They found the bodily remains of many engineers, as well as xenomorphs, who had seemingly died due to weapons, as well as acid burn. They also stumbled upon the remains of a queen and an engineer, which helped them deduce that they were at odds with each other and that both parties had essentially killed each other off. What was the purpose of the beacon signal? Well, the derelict had many impressive features. The beacon signal that transmitted a powerful acoustic beacon across space was undoubtedly its best feature. The transmissions that were emitted from this beacon were so powerful that they could detect messages all the way from LV-426 and warn potential travelers about the dangers that were on board. However, the transmissions were in an alien language, and human crew members could not really make much sense of it if they heard it. In an ironic turn of events, both the Nostromo and the USCSS Anesadora's crew members were drawn to the ship due to the beacon until Henry Marlowe finally deactivated it.
Can you see anything? I don't know, a cave.
What was inside the cargo hold of the Derelict? While we have already shed some light on the xenomorphs stored in the cargo hold of the Derelict, the kind of operations the engineers ran on the ship were quite unimaginable. In fact, they had stored thousands of xenomorph XX-121 eggs, which were carefully preserved in a thin layer of blue mist. When Kane discovered these eggs, he theorized that the blue mist was actually generated by the eggs in an attempt to detect the presence of any nearby suitable hosts, while other theories suggested that the engineers created the mist to subdue the xenomorph eggs. Ridley Scott also talked about the Derelict as a weapon carrier that was created with the intention of transporting these biological weapons. And sure enough, one of the eggs opened up when the Anesadora's crew stepped into the cargo hold. However, most of these eggs were either unable to crack themselves open or died, as there were 3 crew members in the cargo hold and only 1 egg capable of attacking them. How did the Anesadora revisit the Derelict? Around 2137, 15 years had passed since the Nostromo first landed on LV-426, and the Derelict's beacon managed to trap another target in the form of the US CSS Anesadora. When this ship's crew detected the same beacon, they landed on the moon to try and salvage anything that might have been abandoned on the Derelict. They came across the equipment that was left behind by the Nostromo's crew and the ship's captain, Henry Marlowe, then went ahead and deactivated the beacon to ensure that no other future ships discovered the Derelict. As they went ahead to explore the cargo hold, Marlowe's wife Catherine was attacked by a facehugger, and they immediately rushed to Sevastopol Station to look for help. What happened during the second rediscovery in 2179? After Marlowe disabled the beacon, nobody stumbled upon the Derelict for a long time until the colony of Hadley's Hope was established on LV-426 in 2179. While these humans started settling down, the colonists were blissfully unaware of the Derelict's existence, as it was shielded by the Ilium mountain range, since the vessel was essentially invisible to the naked human eye, and satellite scanning. It was undetectable for a long time, even after it was damaged due to some volcanic activity. After the ship's port side fell from its position, the Derelict was in a vulnerable position around the same time that Ripley was rescued from deep space. She then told them all about the Nostromo's landing on LV-426, and Hadley Hope's prospectors, such as Russ and Ann Jordan, then went to look for the ship. They discovered it and were soon dumbfounded in the face of the large-scale xenomorph infestation due to the Derelict's massive cargo hold. These events eventually led to the meltdown and detonation of its atmosphere processing plant, which resulted in the destruction of Hadley's Hope, while the Derelict remained unharmed. How did Weyland-Yutani investigate the Derelict later on? After the loss of Hadley's Hope, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation decided to send the Shinyo Maru to find the Derelict and look into the abandoned ship, but there were no future updates on this mission. Was the Derelict grown, not built? When H.R. Giger took the reins to design the ship, he barely took a few hours to come up with the initial design. Ridley Scott requested him to design a vessel that looked entirely inhuman, and Giger then came up with the idea of a ship that was entirely grown instead of being constructed. After glancing at the first design, Scott was immediately on board with Giger's vision and even described this draft as a knockout. While many other studio members expressed their concerns over the disturbing images, Scott brushed off these concerns and worked with Giger to create the perfect grown vessel. They worked with a lot of polystyrene and plasticine to construct the model along with a 4-meter-long metal frame. While the ship did have a lot of surface detail, not all of it was captured on screen. After Scott decided to backlight to craft for effect, after Giger had designed it, Peter Voisey sculpted the Derelict's model from his designs, and it was quite a team effort to grow the vessel. How are the alien eggs filmed? In order to film the cargo hold scenes, the creatives designed about 130 prop eggs. And one special hero egg prop that could peel open with the help of hydraulics. This special egg was used in the scene where Kane was attacked, and Ridley Scott also came up with the idea of shielding these prop eggs with a protective layer. He essentially wanted an early warning system around the egg to warn the audiences about a potential host organism, and they used a blue scanning laser projected through the smoke. This gave off the effect of a membrane-like layer covering the eggs. And interestingly, Scott was given this blue laser by a rock group The Who. While they were testing different lasers for their upcoming tour, Scott's vision for the cargo hold and the derelict at large was to create a slasher movie experience in space, and he went above and beyond to give the ship a dark, haunted look. What were the original ideas for the derelict? Originally, the derelict was not supposed to house the xenomorph eggs, and they were going to be stored in a different structure known as the egg silo. Unfortunately, they decided to merge the egg silo with the derelict due to budget constraints, and this was only the first of many changes that were made to the vessel's original design. At first, the ship was supposed to be human in origin, and conceptual artist Rob Kahn worked on its design for quite some time to give it a rational appearance. However, these designs did not work out, as Scott envisioned a disturbing and inhuman vessel, and designers Chris Foss and Mobius then conceptualized the vessel until it made its way to Scott's storyboards. However, Scott still considered them to be a little too grounded, and that is when he finally brought in H.R. Giger to add the final touches to the derelict. Did the derelict appear elsewhere after Alien? After appearing in Alien, the derelict made an appearance in Alien, Colonial Marines video game, where players would encounter two small holographic ships after shooting the pilot's head. While these spacecraft were not the most accurate depictions of the derelict's history, they were created as Easter eggs, and eventually, the derelict would make an appearance in Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5. Was the derelict originally meant to appear in Aliens? While the derelict was all set to reappear in Aliens, the effects team had to reach out to Bob Burns for permission to use the derelict model's design after filming the first film. In order to save money on the cost and risk of shipping the model to England, they shot some of the scenes that involved the derelict in the United States and hoped to composite it into the model shots filmed in England at a later stage. However, these sequences were eventually cut from the final version of the film and were only reinstated in an extended special edition release. Appearances and media. After appearing in the original Alien and Aliens film, novel, and comic series, the derelict was mentioned in the Alien Resurrection novel series. It also appeared in a dream sequence in the Alien Isolation comic and video game, as well as novels such as Alien the Blueprint, Alien the Weyland-Yutani Report, and Alien River of Pain novel. Finally, it was mentioned in Alien the role-playing game, and it was spotted in several non-canon stories as well. These included novels such as Alien Female War and video games such as Alien Trilogy and Aliens vs. Predator. It appeared in flashbacks in novels such as Aliens Outbreak and Aliens Apocalypse, and was mentioned in other media such as Aliens Music of the Spear, Aliens Adventure Game, and Aliens vs. Predator 2. Finally, Aliens Origin Sin, Aliens Infestation, and Alien Colonial Marines were other non-canon story arcs where the derelict made an appearance. Marvelous verdict. And with that, we have explored most of the derelict story arc and eventual fate, as well as the creator's efforts to design an inhuman vessel. While it was essentially a storehouse for xenomorph eggs, it has left behind quite a legacy on LV-426 and the Alien universe at large. We hope you enjoyed exploring its origins and story arc in detail, and we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.